Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 285 podcast, where we learn, earn, save, and invest together, all while enjoying every minute of our journey towards financial independence. At 285, it's all about achieving financial independence to set the stage to achieving the fullest potential of our lives. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the fundamental behaviors needed to achieve financial independence. The mere process of calculating the amount that you need to achieve financial independence can be vexing and daunting in itself. On top of that, if you're just starting on the journey, it can be quite defeating to hear all the terms and complex skills that you need to be a successful investor. There are discounted cash flows and IRAs and intrinsic values and all that jazz, right? When I started my journey, I first bought a book on financial statement analysis and another on evaluating stocks with dreams and aspirations of being the next Warren Buffett, right? It took me time to go through them. Ultimately, all that happened was I made a few lousy investments and resigned to the fact that, well, I wasn't a Warren Buffett, right? Honestly, though, as time passed, I realized that none of that actually matters. An average person can achieve financial independence by investing prudently and knowing some basic fundamentals of the market. We'll definitely get to how we invest in a future episode. But today, what I really want to focus on are some fundamental behaviors that are required in order for us to achieve financial independence. Remember that this journey towards financial independence is a really long one. It's a marathon, right? And the most important thing that is required as we go through this journey is going to be the discipline of sustaining the behaviors that are required to achieve financial independence. Financial independence is built on a three-legged stool. These three legs are saving, earning, and investing. Now, you might look at that and say, wow, that's really profound, right? Such basic things. Honestly, though, these are hard to sustain and hard to continue to focus on over an extended period of time. So let's spend some time today and talk through how we actually set it up. Savings is such a simple thing to do, right? I mean, you have some money, you don't spend it, you sock it away. That's it, right? But it can be a really hard thing to do consistently over a period of time. The tendency to save can be highly related to your upbringing. There's research that suggests that. In Eastern countries like China and India, the idea of savings is quite common. In fact, taking debt is actually looked down upon. Any millennial from an Eastern culture would probably remember, hearing their parents talk about savings and spending money judiciously. Now, for good or for bad, our generation has taken to credit cards and personal loans, taken on huge student loans and mortgages as well, basically driving towards debt versus towards savings. Now, it's not bad to take calculated debt, but at the same time, it's really, really important to focus on savings. So to achieve financial independence, you have to master savings. No matter how much you make, you can always save a bit. It starts with recording where you're spending your money, knowing where your money is flowing out to, knowing what you truly need to have a happy life, and then sock away the rest, right? Now, this distinction is really important. It was a pivotal moment in my life as well when I started to recognize the difference between the needs and the wants. So if you haven't done the act of putting together a budget, analyzing where you're spending money, I suggest you start there, right? It really doesn't matter where you put the money away. I mean, put it in a bag, put it in your savings account, leaving it in your checking account, and if you're so advanced, put it into a brokerage. But the point, though, is that first one we want to set up is that idea and the habit of saving money. If you've saved 1% of your paycheck this month, then let's step it up to 2% next month. Let's look at our budget and find ways to do that. But slowly but surely, we want to make our way to 15 to 20% of your paycheck. Now, if you are in the US, and every country has a similar approach, but if you are in the US, one of the easiest way to do this is to automate your savings into a retirement account like a 401k or an IRA. You really don't feel the hit initially because of the tax savings that comes along with it. And you can never go wrong saving for your own retirement. Now, I'm a big fan of Reddit, right? It's a very active community. You always come out with a nugget of wisdom. I love following the FIRE channel in Reddit. And it's always great to see people who have achieved their FIRE number and decide to quit, right? It's very, very inspiring to me as someone who is, still quite a way along from achieving that FIRE goal. But I always find it amusing when I come across the usual disgruntled member who says, good for you, you must have a very high salary, that's why you got to financial independence. Well, that's kind of true, right? To get to something like 50% of your paycheck saved, you do need to earn quite a bit, right? However, the important part to understand is that the person saved a huge chunk of their salary. They did not let consumer distractions or lifestyle inflation affect how they have saved their money, right? And I think that is really what we need to be inspired by. At the end of the day, no matter how you cut it, the habit and mindset of saving is really what makes the journey towards financial independence possible. So, right, as we set up this first habit of saving, the first thing to do really is create a budget, understand where you're spending money, and find a way to get to that 15 to 20% of your paycheck saved. Right. Now, once you've achieved your habit of saving and you're chalking away a good 15 to 20% of the salary, then it's really time to grow that income. Now, let me repeat that. It's time to grow the income, not necessarily grow the savings, right? Now, let me share a version. Now, this is a true story, but I've just, kind of versioned it a little bit for the podcast over here. But there were two neighbors that we lived next to growing up, right? One of our neighbors was a miserly man. He watched every penny he spent. He was a super saver, right? I mean, he would even wear worn out clothes and probably saved a very high percentage of his salary, right? And he saved this money in his bank, which in those days, paid really, really good interest. Now, on the other hand, we had another neighbor who lived a better life, right? You could see him hustle. I still remember the image that I have of that neighbor is him studying on the terrace of this house, right? Which, by the way, I was a school kid back then, and it was so weird to me because I'd always ask myself, why does a grown man with a job want to study? I thought the whole point of getting a job was that you didn't have to study anymore, right? But turns out that this second neighbor was focused on career growth, right? He was focused on growing his income. His hard work paid off and he was consistently promoted over time. He likely 5x'd his income because I remember hearing my dad talk about it when I was a child. Obviously, his savings outperformed the first neighbor because even though he was saving the same 15% or maybe even higher as the other neighbor, his salary was much higher. So the moral of the story is that savings is important, but it's not as useful as the only skill. If you want to make enough money to achieve financial independence earlier, then you must match your ability to save with your ability to earn. Let me repeat that again. If you want to make enough money to achieve financial independence early enough, then you must match your ability to save with your ability to earn. You don't need to have a fancy job or a fancy degree. Trust me, I know many millionaires who own their own businesses and don't even have a college diploma. So there's no excuse, and honestly, there's not a lot of luck involved. It's really about a personal urgency to grow. I remember hearing this from my mom growing up that if you really want something in your life, if you're willing to work hard for it, the entire world will conspire to make that happen, right? So luck is made when you show the hustle and urgency. So if you're in, a job, find out what it takes to get to the next promotion. If you're not in a job, or if you don't think there's another promotion, is there a side hustle that you can take, like drive an Uber or something else, right? Find skills that you need to acquire the next promotion or the side gig and learn it, right? Invest the time. There's nothing better than investing in yourself. If you need to be a better communicator, practice in front of a mirror. If you're an introvert, and afraid of networking, practice with friends. Go to a bar, find a stranger to talk to. No matter how you cut it, you're going to have to take initiative to do what it takes to be competent for the next role. And once you're competent, even if your company doesn't recognize you, you have put yourself in a powerful situation because now you can switch jobs and even increase your earnings even more. Earning is very, very important, right? Now, let me give you the math behind it, right? A promotion at work in most companies is about an 8 to 10% increase in salary. Now, because we have a habit of saving, we know that we shouldn't succumb to lifestyle inflation and should be saving any of our increases in salary, right? So if you kind of sock away all of that money, you've just increased your savings rate by about 30% without sacrificing any quality of life. If you manage to have, say, 5 promotions in the next 10 years, your savings rate will triple even by that math, right? And if you're in a high demand industry with a highly, highly valuable skill, you could even 10x your income in 10 years. That's crazy, right? But it is true. There are so many people who have called it quits really early because they've been able to achieve their goal by possessing highly valuable skills in high demand industries, right? The point though is that each one of us can do it. There's nothing about, like there are a few gifted people who can do this. What's really needed in all of us is the foundational savings mindset and then the high energy hustle mindset to improve our earnings. Now, we do need to talk about the third behavior of investing, right? And we will, talk about it in a future episode. We'll talk about the 2-word-5 philosophy on investing and walk through a portfolio idea. But honestly, if you just took all your savings and put it in your target date retirement account, retirement fund, or if you just open a brokerage account, take 80% of your savings, put it in an S&P 500 fund, 20% into a bond fund, then you'll do better than most people in the market. I mean, even Warren Buffett suggested putting money into an S&P 500 fund, right? So there are index funds in every country, whether you're in India or China or any other place in the world, in Europe, there's always index funds that you can put your money into. The financial industry is more connected than it's ever been before, right? So there's no excuse to kind of not know investing. It's a pretty easy, straightforward route to do, especially if you're in the starting points of your financial independence journey, right? There's a lot of concepts like, how to be more tax efficient, how to think about transitioning when you're nearing retirement. There's a lot of those topics, but honestly, nothing that is material, especially for those who are in the beginning to middle phases of their financial independence journey. So let's quickly recap. This has been a really long episode, but I think that these are really, really important fundamental behaviors to set up so that, we are setting ourselves up into a good rhythm to kind of conquer this journey towards financial independence. So step 1, build a foundational behavior of savings. Record all your spending, set a budget, kill anything in that budget that doesn't add value to your life, right? Demarcate between what are your needs and what are your wants, right? Channel this money into your savings. Keep repeating this exercise, starting with 1% this month to 2% next, 3%, and try to keep increasing it until you get to 15% of your salary, right? The second behavior we want to build is focusing on growing our income, right? Growing in our careers, increasing the amount of money that we earn so that, in effect, the amount of money that we save increases, right? Find out what it takes to get a promotion or do a side hustle. Assess the most valuable skills in your industry and acquire those skills. Put yourself out there, learn to network, make new connections, make new friends, and really find out what clicks in your industry, right? Most importantly, ask yourself this question. What is it going to take to double your income in 5 years? What do you need to do from a job perspective or a business perspective to achieve that, right? As you think about that, really, really focus and practice these skills. Thanks again for listening to this episode. Obviously, we always have a ton of fun topics coming up, including how to set up a FIRE portfolio, how to construct FIRE goals, and maintaining a focus on the financial independence journey while you're on this marathon. And of course, a lot more topics like that. Until then, let's continue to put our heads down, work towards financial independence. Cheers, guys.